Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petite to Queen's Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn, and today I'm joined by our special guest, David Weiss. Now, today, David and I are going to be talking about what MEDDPICC is, MEDDPICC, and how it can multiply your growth. I want to tell you a little bit about David. He is an accomplished salesperson, leader, and business strategist with 20 years of experience in the technology, consulting, and professional services industry. He is the CRO of the Sales Collective, a sales think tank that helps companies assess their people, build their process training, train their teams, and hire future top performers. He's also the founder of DealDoc, a mobile application to help salespeople see problems in their opportunities and actions they can take to solve those problems. David is a recognized thought leader in the sales industry and has been featured in a number of publications and podcasts, including Sales Hacker, Crunchbase, and Top One FM, as well as many others. Well, David, I am so excited to have you here today. This is going to be a fantastic topic. Welcome to the show.
Lynn, thanks for having me on. And by the way, I just learned something very important. My bio is way too long. I need to shorten that up because when you hear someone read your bio, you're like, oh yeah, that's terrible. That needs to get way shorter. Anyways, thank you everybody for listening through all of that. And Lynn, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I know I had the short and snappy version for myself as well. So, and those of you who are joining us for that very first time, make sure you don't miss a single episode of Claim Your Career Crown by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. And if you love the show and you love what we're doing, please leave us a 5-star review and share the episode to your friends and colleagues. We would very much appreciate it. All right, David, with your background and all the different things you've done, including building an app, I'd love to have you tell us sort of what inspired you to where you are right now, and that love of sales.
Yeah. So what inspired me? So growing up, my parents set a really, really high bar for me. And I was graduating college and I was thinking about what did I want to do with my life? Who is David? And I had sold jewelry in college. I'd sold illicit substances. I sold retail. I sold anything I could make some money on while I was in college. I was like, okay, maybe there's something with this sales thing, but I really wanted to get into international business and maybe become a CEO at some point. All of that. I had big dreams. And then my parents said to me, "Hey, David, you need to go make some money and stop, mooching off of us." And I was like, yeah, I guess that's fair. So I then decided, okay, I have experience in sales, let's go try that. And I did. And I absolutely failed miserably. I joined a company that didn't provide me any sales training. I was very, ignorant as a young seller and didn't really fully respect the fact that sales training is not always the company I joined's responsibility, but also mine. And I didn't take advantage of that. And I burnt out. I didn't understand things like time and territory management, good account management, how to manage my time as well as the proper levels of activity. Didn't understand all that. I knew their product because that's what they taught me. And I frankly, I failed. And I took a step back and I said to myself, is sales right for me? And everyone I talked to told me that I was a natural. And I don't think there really is naturals, but that's what people told me. And at that point in my life, I really wasn't good at anything. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give this sales thing one more try. And so to bring it full circle, what got me into this profession? Why do I love it? I made a very conscious effort to treat the profession as a professional athlete would treat their career. And I researched and found through a publication called Selling Power Magazine, the top 50 companies to sell for. I applied to every single one. I got interviews at 2. I picked one and I did everything they told me. And I leaned into sales training and I found mentors and I read books and everything I could freaking find. And I really became a student of our profession. and that's why I've got so much love for it, is the time, the energy, and the life it's provided for me, because of the work I've put in. And I think anybody could have that if they put in the right level of effort. So that's why I love it.
Well, that is so surprising and unexpected. You sort of took a turn that I was not thinking is where you were going to go with this. And so through all the training and the things that you did to become that lifelong learn it all around sales, where did MEDDPICC come in, and what is MEDDPICC?
Yeah.
For those, it's an acronym, MEDDPICC, and say that fast 20 times, right? And how does it multiply your growth? So sort of a three-tiered question there.
Sure. So I've been on a 20-year journey in sales. I try and read a book a month. I still have mentors. I still, lean on lots of people to support, my growth and whatever it is. And so, being in sales for 20 years, I didn't discover MEDDPICC for the first probably 10 to 12 years. So I'll get to what it stands for in a second, but the origin story here to me is really interesting because, I've been here. David is. I've been a successful salesperson, successful sales leader. Easy W-2, 7 figures, made the money. I was working for a company called ADP at the time, which is well known as one of the best sales organizations in the world. At the time, I was one of their top global sellers. Like, I thought I had a lot figured out. And a leader, his name is Gregory Donovan, came into the organization. And with most leadership changes, I dread them. I can count on maybe one or two fingers, and one of them is not the middle finger, which is normally how I feel with new leaders. On the good leaders that have happened during org changes, it's normally the worst experience in my life. And this leader came in, and I expected terrible. And this person was really, really good, and they had sold companies, and they had been very successful as both a seller and a leader, and they brought to the table MEDDPICC. They taught me MEDDPICC. And the funny part about the origin story here is that when it was first introduced to me, I rejected it. I was like, nope, I'm a top seller. I'm a top performer. What else can I learn? I know what I'm doing. And this leader was very patient with me. He didn't, jam it down my throat, didn't threaten me, didn't do all the usual power trips most new leaders do. They said, okay, hey, can you walk me through a deal? And I did. And they're like, yeah, you're good. You could be better. And I was like, I just took that as it was so subtle, but it was so offensive to me at the time. And I was how, and they walked me through MEDDPICC again. And I said, nah, I'm good. And what this person ended up doing is just every deal that we would talk about, he would bring such great insight and advice and questions and help me see the problems I had in my deals. And through that learning, I realized all he's doing is MEDDPICCing me every single time we talk. But it worked, and I started closing more, and I made more money than I ever had. And it was at that moment I was like, all right, you win. This is a thing. I'm gonna do this. And from there it's just literally become a borderline obsession of mine.
All right. So you haven't given us the MEDDPICC acronym and the process of using MEDDPICC. So bring it on.
All right, bring it on. I wanted to pause for you. I have a tendency to talk. I need to give other. All right. So MEDDPICC, MEDDPICC, MEDDPICC. Literally write down MEDDPICC for the folks that are listening. Do me a favor. Grab a sticky note, grab a piece of paper. Think about a deal that you're working right now and just write down MEDDPICC. Okay. M, metrics. Those are your business case elements. Score these things that I'm about to say: red, yellow, green. Red is I know all the information. Yellow is I know some of the information, but my client hasn't validated it. The customer I'm working with hasn't validated it, hasn't said it's complete, hasn't signed off on it. Yes, you understand it. Green is I'm good. It's rock solid. They've accepted it. I know it. It's validated. They're in my corner. Green is you're good. Okay. So red, yellow, green, MEDDPICC. M is metrics. That's your business case. Do you have a rock solid business case that has been blessed by an executive and that is CFO worthy that can get signed off on. If you do, you're green. If not, red, yellow. E, economic buyer. That's your executive sponsor. That's the person who can create budget for good ideas. They don't need to go and, find budget. They don't need to wait till the next budget cycle. They can just be like, I'm taking budget from you, or I'm pulling it out of the air because there's an ROI for me. Your first D is decision criteria. So think of that as like your customer's wish list, their scorecard. What do they really want in a deal? Again, red, you don't know what it is. Yellow, you know what it is, but you're misaligned. They want 10 things, you do 5. They want 5 things, you do 10. You're overkill. You're going to be too expensive for them. Green, what they're looking for in a solution and what you're offering a solution. It's really good. Decision process is the next one. That's your mutual action plan. That's how the business is going to make a buying decision. Everybody that's involved, the budget, the steps that they have, InfoSec and legal and solution design and business case agreement and all the people. Your P is paper process. Some people also call it the procurement process. It's the legal side of things. So like the business wants it. The legal side doesn't really care. They're like, we need to get the best terms. We need to de-risk it. That's why those two are separate. And then you have I, C, and C. I is identify or implicate pain. So do I really understand the problem solving of the organization? All the people I'm solving it for, the ripple effects of it, all the things that go on to solving this problem. And then lastly, your 2 C's. Your first one is champion. Champions are people selling for you when you are not there with access to power. They are not your friend. They're not the person that likes you. They are selling for you when you are not there and have access to power. Access to power is key, one step below your economic buyer. Last one is competition. Who am I competing with? Status quo, build versus buy, internal creation of a solution, and then, the usual suspects within your category for competitors.
All right. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for walking us through that. Now, when you're looking at MEDDPICC and you're thinking about businesses and how they're doing, why is growth a challenge? And it's really become more urgent than ever. And how can MEDDPICC help businesses to bridge that gap?
Yeah. So why is growth such a challenge? And how can businesses use MEDDPICC so, I mean, lots of reasons. There's lots of competition. I mean, look, let's look at macroeconomic factors to start. We're in a recession. It's getting worse. We're going to be in this thing for however many, 6 months, a year, 2 years, depending on the economist that you want to listen to. So when you're in a recession, when you're in a tough selling environment, what every organization is doing is they're prioritizing the solutions and problems they are choosing to deploy and fix right now because they can't do it all. And what you also need to remember is that just because you've got a great idea and just because your solution's awesome, the people that you're trying to solve a problem for, there's probably 20 other salespeople trying to solve problems for them. So, you have that environment. You also have, in my opinion, the speed of development. So the speed at which a company can compete is incredible. So what is a differentiator for you today will not be tomorrow. You have high levels of scrutiny on all dollars being spent. It's just a really, really tough time to be a salesperson. And selling, in my opinion, is getting harder and harder as more decision makers enter our deals, as more and more products are becoming commoditized, as more information is readily available to our buyers. So more and more of the decision cycle is happening before we get involved. All of those things are just, it makes our jobs way, way harder. I'm not even going to touch on artificial intelligence and that thing's going to be like, holy shit, that's a different conversation. But there's a lot. Just know there's a lot of things happening. So how does MEDDPICC help? MEDDPICC, to me, it's like you have your sales process. You have your methodology that you go to market with, Challenger, Spin, Gap, whatever hodgepodge that that your organization has deployed. That's how you go to market. You have your stages, You have the stuff you do in your stages. That's your sales process. Here's how MEDDPICC helps. Think of those things as your car. You're driving it along. You're driving along. MEDDPICC is your blind spot detector. MEDDPICC is your anti-crash avoidance. MEDDPICC makes sure as you're driving your car along, you don't freaking hit a wall and die. That's what MEDDPICC is for. So it sits on top of your sales process. Keep running whatever process you want. Sits on top of it. And simply as you're going through this process, as you're driving your car, you're looking to your left, you're looking to your right, things blurring and alarms going off like there's a truck there, don't move over. And what it's telling you is like, look, you don't have a business case right now. You haven't found your economic buyer yet. You don't really know their decision process. You really don't know the criteria they want. You haven't built a champion. You don't know the problem you're solving. You're not properly differentiated or competitive, or don't know what you're really competing against, whether it's an internal build or status quo or actual competitor. You just don't know these things. These are things that are going to cause you to crash at some point.
Right.
That's where MEDDPICC kind of fits in and helps.
All right. So when people are listening and they're thinking, okay, but does this apply to me? And maybe they're where you were at one point, they're going, nah, I'm going to just hold back. So why? I mean, sort of getting into that mindset of, no, not for me, or as you were, that place that you're at, what's going on there? And then why is this effective growth typically a blind spot of learning and growing and pivoting and changing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna label myself and nobody else. I was arrogant. I thought I knew it all. I could still be arrogant and think I know it all. My wife tells me that. That's okay. That's another story. And we're all reluctant to change because we think we have it figured out, or at least I thought I had it figured out. What I will say, what I wish I could go back in time and say to my past self, and I've said it to myself many times, is that MEDDPICC for me is, it's really hard to see your blind spots. They're blind spots for a reason. It's in the freaking name. Blind, can't see. You don't know what you don't know right now, and that's what MEDDPICC did for me. MEDDPICC is like, it shines a really bright light because it gives me a very objective way to pull my head up from my deal, remove the blinders of myopathy, and say, okay, what do I really know? What do I really not? Here's the objective common language. I can look at this thing, and then go from there. And I've taught this to people that are running the largest freaking 10, 20, $100 million deals, all the way down to the person selling $5,000, $10,000 on the spot transaction, we'll call closest. The difference is to me the level of depth and the level of scrutiny. And there's also other forms of MEDDPICC. So like there's MEDDICC, MEDDICC, and there's also MEDDICC, MEDDICC. And those are created through the concept of, if you don't have a complex legal process, you don't need the paper process. You don't need the P. If you don't have a lot of champions in your deals because these are small businesses that you're selling to, and it's like one person.
Yeah. The buck stops here.
The buck stops here. So like my point is, there are pieces of this that may not be a fit. MEDDPICC is the concept of, and you can adjust the letters, but what I've found are pretty universal is that if you want someone to buy something, you need to probably financially justify it to them. There needs to be a reason. There needs to be a problem that you're solving. There needs to be someone that's making a decision that can sign. There's likely something they want out of a solution, like some degree of criteria they want. They're likely going through some sort of process to buy it, like whether they're going to visit a few stores or all the stores, or, there's going to be some process that they go to buy it. So, and you're likely competing against something, and do nothing, by the way, is something. So there's almost always a factor of a flavor of MEDDPICC involved in anything being bought.
Yeah, absolutely. Complacency is one of the big ones, right? When you think about people not taking action. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that should be like, no complacency, because everything does shift and change, and you want to be ahead of the curve, not trailing behind and trying to catch up. So I'm really fascinated because, you've really taken it from that really high level down to a smaller business and, taking out the letters that you don't need. So for those who are tuning in today, what should they do next about incorporating the MEDDPICC, process or strategy for their growth?
So one of the things I love about this thing is it's so darn easy. Like you've learned it. You learned it on this call. Like, and
Yeah.
and if you want to get really good at it, I've got a ton of materials. You've got Deal Doc, and Deal Doc is MedPick plus spin and spice and flavors of what David's learned and Miller Hyman and all these things over the years. It's not one methodology. It's a blend. And the key behind MedPick metrics, you got to have a business case template. You got to understand the implications of the problem. You need to understand what your solution impacts and the value to your organization. So if you don't know that stuff, go build that. You have to have a way to get to economic buyers and executive sponsors. If you don't have a path in your sales process to get to those types of people and you aren't comfortable with executive conversations, go figure that out. Decision process, like I don't know if you've ever used a mutual action plan template. Use a mutual action plan template. There's your decision process. Decision criteria. It's as easy as an Excel spreadsheet with the nice to haves, needs to haves, feature functions, and having a conversation. Like, what of these things are important to you? Like, go have the conversation. Paper process. It's a mutual action plan for the legal process. Give to get frameworks and things like that. Implicate pain is really good discovery and peeling the onion with multiple levels of questioning to get there. Like if you don't have a template in a framework to do that, like just go do that. Building champions, you should have some sort of methodical way to build champions. Competition, build versus buy templates, competitive templates as far as like battle cards that you can use that I compete with this person. So here's how I put them in a box. Here's how I set landmines. Like you want to get good at MEDDPICC, understand the fundamentals behind all of it, have a way then to visualize those fundamentals and deploy them. And then just look at your deal and ask yourself, do I know the stuff as it relates to each of those letters? And if I don't, okay, cool. That's fine. It's okay. You're not bad. Just go. There's your learning opportunity. Go
Yeah.
figure that stuff out in your deal. Just go do it and take action.
Yeah, absolutely. Ask a question. That's brilliant. So and now I've got a question for you. Is there anything you wish that I had asked you, David?
No, this is a great conversation. I think this is a really great introduction to your audience on MedDPICC. And look, I'm such a resource for people. Like I get when I get literally out of bed every single day just to help people sell. Like I've made enough money in my life and I've won the t-shirts and the trophies. Like I just want to help other people win. Like that's just me. So like if I can help you with this, just hit me up on LinkedIn, ping me, whatever. Like I'm here to support people's growth.
All right. Well, David, thank you so much for sharing what MEDDPICC is and how it can multiply your growth. And you just alluded to that, how our listeners can connect with you and find you.
LinkedIn. LinkedIn. I literally post something every single day to help salespeople sell better. So yeah, just hit me up on LinkedIn, drop me a message. Don't pitch me. Don't do it. I know you're thinking about it. Don't do it. Reach out with an actual problem I can help you solve, and I'll help you solve it.
All right. Well, we'll be sure that David's LinkedIn is right below. So he's one click away so that you can connect with him along with his other links. And this has been such an informative discussion. Thank you so much, David. And thank you for everyone who tuned in today. We're so glad that you joined us. And if you have any ideas that you'd like to share, you can leave us a comment down below. We love hearing from you. And if you have a question or would like to suggest a topic for discussion, please email us at jointheconversation@petitetoqueen.com. And of course, to stay current on all of our insightful advice, our breakthrough advantages, all the incredible episodes like the one with David today, you can sign up for our weekly wisdoms newsletter at petitetoqueen.com. And once again, if you loved this episode, please share it with your friends, your peers, and we would very much appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. And David, thank you so much for joining me today.
And thank you. And all your listeners, thank you so much for listening to me talk. I appreciate y'all.